Amazing transformation. Millionaire doctor's shocking condition for her to be his wife revealed. Emily Jennings felt like the world was closing in on her. Hours before, Dr. Henry Caldwell had proposed under twinkling lights, his eyes alight with ambition and love. But now, the weight of his ultimatum pressed heavily on her chest. Give up her nursing career to manage his philanthropic foundation. The air felt thick, and for a moment the city she cherished slipped away, leaving only her racing thoughts. This brilliant surgeon, loved by many, now offered her a life of comfort in exchange for something precious. Emily's mind spiraled through memories of late-night shifts and the grateful faces of families she had served in the hospital. Those moments had shaped her, made her feel alive. Could she really trade them all for the allure of a lavish life? The image of her mother flooded her mind, sacrifices made for family, whispered tales of resilience echoing in her heart. Emily, remember why you chose nursing. Her mentor's voice cut through her turmoil, grounding her. But Henry was charismatic, his laughter infectious. He was everything that seemed unattainable, now within reach. In fleeting moments, doubt niggled at her resolve. This was more than just a job. It was a calling that defined her. What did a life without that passion mean? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. That pulse of urgency, an outbreak striking their community, sent shockwaves through Emily's thoughts. The streets were filled with hushed panic as news spread. Clinics were overwhelmed, supplies dwindling. Her heart raced as she watched the chaos unfold. She could feel the tug of her dedication pulling her closer to the hospital, a place where she could make an impact. But Henry's voice echoed in her head, a reminder of the price that love could exact. Would he understand this? Would he support her decision to risk everything in the name of duty? Emily's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just a personal battle. It felt like a fight for her identity. She felt the shadows of anxiety creep in, muscles tightening with the weight of uncertainty. Could she challenge the proposal, fight for her passion, and risk losing Henry? Every heartbeat pulsed in conflict with every possible outcome, and beneath it all lay a fear that her choices might unravel the life she had built in a community that had shaped her. Standing at this crossroads, she trembled with the tension of a decision that could alter her fate. Confronting Henry's expectation loomed large, a battle within herself layered with emotions. What would it mean to choose her calling over love? Would it be the ultimate betrayal? Those thoughts churned violently, and as she readied herself to take a stand, the impending crisis loomed overhead, demanding her attention and undivided commitment. The stakes were rising rapidly. Her soul tugged in conflicting directions among the noise and chaos, leaving her yearning for clarity in a web of uncertainty. Emily stood in the middle of her apartment, the familiar yet comforting surroundings now feeling alien. The news of the outbreak had disrupted her routine, and as she scrolled through her phone, an avalanche of notifications about the crisis solidified her resolve. Each message was like a siren call, urging her to return to the place where she'd found purpose and camaraderie. But Henry's offer ensnared her thoughts, a gilded cage suffocating her spirit. She closed her eyes, recalling the quiet moments before the storm, the intimacy of the hospital where time was measured by heartbeats, not clocks. For weeks, she had trained tirelessly to develop new approaches to patient care, pouring her heart into every shift. Those late nights spent in the wings of recovery rooms, eyes flitting between charts and the soft rise and fall of chests, had become sacred to her. They were not just tasks, they were a testament to her chosen calling. But now visions clashed. Wealth and prestige danced beside the echo of her fading aspirations. Henry's world beckoned with its promises of stability, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that stepping into it meant relinquishing a part of herself, possibly beyond repair. Was this even love if it meant erasing the essence of who she was? Determined, she picked up a pen and began to jot down her thoughts, the notebook a sanctuary from the turmoil that engulfed her. Short phrases morphed into calculations, each letter a lifeline, revealing the shape of her dilemma. She wrote about the people she had helped, the laughter of children blooming behind hospital walls, and the resolved faces of parents who had trusted her with their lives. The ink flowed as her thoughts crystallized. She needed to embrace her role as a healer now more than ever. As the shadows lengthened outside her window, her phone buzzed, interrupting her reverie. It was a message from her mentor, Dr. Simmons. "Are you okay? I know it's overwhelming. Want to talk?" The gesture filled her with warmth, a reminder that she was not alone in her struggles, no matter how isolating they felt. Why had she allowed herself to drift into a space where she was defined by someone else's dreams? A quiet fury ignited within her, emboldened by a sudden clarity. She realized she had the right to voice her needs. She no longer had to shy away from conversations that may threaten her path. Instead, they could reshape it. Returning the call to Henry loomed large. Would he listen to her? The possibility of rejection felt like a lead weight in her stomach, yet something deeper was beginning to stir. She was not merely a reflection of his success, she was a substantial force in her own right. The thought sparked a wave of determination, igniting the flame of hope she had thought extinguished. Grabbing her phone, she took a deep breath and dialed Henry. As the call connected, her hands trembled, a rush of strength rushing through her veins. She was ready to articulate her desire to not just support him, but to find a way to fulfill her own purpose too. The moment felt monumental. "Henry, we need to talk," she said as soon as he answered. The weight behind her words hung palpably in the air, hinting at the confrontation ahead. As the conversation unfolded, she steadied herself for a journey fraught with potential heartbreak, a journey that could either strengthen their relationship or unravel everything she had ever wanted. Little did she know, something beyond her expectations was waiting on the other side of this pivotal discussion. Would their love bend under the pressure of truth, or could it evolve into something stronger and more resilient than either had imagined? The conversation with Henry was fraught with tension, each syllable carrying the weight of unspoken fears and desires. Emily's heart raced as she navigated through the slew of emotions swirling inside her. "I know you've got big plans," she said, her voice steady despite the tumult within. "But I need to talk about mine." His silence stretched like an elastic band, a prelude to the tension that ignited her resolve further. What would he say? Would he understand her struggle or dismiss it as just another moment of doubt? "Emily, I don't think this is the time for uncertainties," he finally replied, his tone clipped. "You should be thinking about our future and what it means for us." "And what if that future is at the cost of who I am?" she interjected. Each word veered her further into the territory she had always avoided. The courage swelling within her was uncharted, but vividly alive. Henry sighed. "This isn't just about you anymore. I thought you were on board with the idea of our life together." "What do you think my life is, Henry? A mirror of yours?" The moment she allowed the words to spill from her lips, Emily recognized how liberating they felt. She had always feared that words might lead to conflict, but perhaps it was this very confrontation that would set her free. "That's not fair," he shot back. "I love you. I want us to build a life together." Emily's chest tightened. Love. Such a small word for such an enormous weight. Was love powerful enough to keep her anchored while she felt herself unmooring? Feeling emboldened, she continued, "But love shouldn't mean losing myself in the process. I've spent years cultivating my career, learning how to heal, to help. That matters to me just as much. You can't ask me to sacrifice that." The silence on the other end felt colossal, filled with implications neither could articulate. Each second stretched towards infinity, and Emily felt her pulse quicken. What was at stake if they continued this way? She had been trying to build a future, but what future could it possibly be if it was predicated on her surrender? "I can't be the only one compromising," she pressed on, the fervor in her heart overpowering the lingering doubts. "You have to see that." Henry hesitated before finally responding. "What do you want from me? Are you willing to step back from this life we've envisioned?" It was a perilous question, requiring her to stare deep into the abyss of her newfound convictions. What did she want? The image of the hospital flooded her mind again. The sounds of beeping machines, the relief on patients' faces, the mission that filled her with unparalleled joy. The thought of stepping away from that plunged her into darkness. "I want to find a way to do both," she proposed, surprising even herself. "I want to support you, but I won't let my aspirations fade into the background. My work is not just a career, it's a calling." Henry's sharp intake of breath signaled the gravity of her declaration. The weight of their relationship felt heavier, the stakes higher. "What if that means we go our separate ways?" he mused, the resignation in his voice chilling her. For the first time, Emily faced the possibility of a painful truth that loomed ominously over them. Was she willing to lose him, to reclaim her identity? But as the words twisted in her throat, her resolve solidified. She couldn't escape the truth. She had to be true to herself, even if the endurance of their love was tested. Her next words trembled slightly, but held a new strength. "Then I guess we'll have to figure that out together. But I won't compromise for stability anymore." The line seemed to crackle with electricity. As they hung up, Emily felt both a sense of victory and a haunting uncertainty. She had taken a stand, but what would it cost her? The path ahead was now unclear, suffused with the shadows of potential heartache. In that moment, a spark ignited within her. No matter the outcome, this was her turning point, a bold embrace of her identity that had long been overshadowed. Yet the question loomed, palpable and undeniable. Had she ventured down a path that could unravel everything she worked so hard to build? What was the price of being true to oneself when love and ambition clashed? The true test of her journey was just beginning, and a pivotal decision awaited. Emily stood by her window, the evening light casting a golden hue across her living room. Yet the beauty of it felt obscured by the weight of her thoughts. The conversation with Henry replayed in her mind, each word echoing off the walls of her resolve, reverberating with uncertainty and newfound strength. She had not merely spoken, she had stepped onto a path open for exploration, one she feared but also felt exhilarated to tread. In that moment of clarity, she understood that confronting the status quo required more than mere words. It demanded action. Absorbed in her thoughts, she reached for her tablet and began typing an outline for a talk she had been invited to give at the hospital's quarterly meeting. Previously, she had thought of it as just another obligation, a chance to showcase her work. Now, it felt like an opportunity to define herself anew, To announce her ambitions to a room full of colleagues who often overshadowed her voice with louder, more assertive personalities. Fingers flying over the screen, Emily structured her presentation around the concept of balance, how to navigate the dual demands of a challenging career and personal aspirations. The irony nearly made her chuckle. Here she was, advocating for balance while her own life felt like a tightrope walk. Nevertheless, she felt she had found her foothold. The intersection of her professional goals with her personal identity transformed from a battleground into fertile ground for growth. The next day arrived with anticipation humming through her veins. As she stepped into the hospital, the familiar scent of antiseptic greeted her, a comforting world where she could regain composure. Employees nodded at her, greeted her with faint smiles, yet she could sense something lurking beneath their casual demeanor. Would they perceive her differently now, following her declaration? Would they support her in her desire for an ambitious duality? Or would they confine her to the traditional mold of a doctor's role? Emily plastered on a confident smile and moved toward the break room, readying herself for the workers' inquiries about her upcoming lecture. She found Dr. Paul, her mentor, pouring coffee into a plastic cup. He glanced at her, his brow furrowing in thought unique to his perpetual analysis. "Ready for your talk?" he questioned, setting down the pot. His tone was encouraging, but carried an underlying weight of expectation. "I am," she replied, then hesitated. "I might also ask you to join me in exploring some of those ideas. I think we should challenge the way we think about our careers and how we balance our personal lives, too." He studied her for a moment, as if weighing her enthusiasm against his own practical approach. "That sounds ambitious, Emily, but be prepared. Not everyone will take kindly to shifting the paradigm." His words struck at her core. She experienced a flash of doubt, yet it was mingled with the urgent need for change within her own life, an urgency that had propelled her toward clarity in her relationship with Henry. "I'm willing to take that risk, Paul," she asserted, holding his gaze. "For the first time, I'm ready to advocate not just for others, but for myself." His nod conveyed understanding, a silent accord. Between mentor and mentee, a camaraderie built on shared aspirations. Perhaps this was the support she needed, not just from colleagues, but from herself, too. The presentation day arrived, and as she stood before her peers, the narrow confines of her past began to expand. Emily shared her vision, courageously weaving in personal anecdotes about her struggles and triumphs. Each phrase resonated, and she could see eyebrows raise in intrigue and interest. It felt good. It felt necessary. But as she finished her presentation amid applause, a creeping thought settled in the back of her mind. Would this newfound voice sustain her through the tumult with Henry? Was she truly ready for the upheaval that might follow if they chose separate paths? The atmosphere shifted when she stepped off the podium. Dr. Paul approached, a smirk rippling across his face. "You just might have ruffled some feathers today. They'll either call you ambitious or reckless." Emily chuckled, but her heart raced. "Perhaps I'm ready for both." As the discussions ensued, she felt an unshakable resolve solidify in her chest. Transformation wasn't without its price, but it was hers to own. Yet the question lingered uneasily. Was she prepared for the consequences of turning her life upside down? The moment had come to redefine her expectations, not just at work, but in her relationship as well. Just as she embarked on this professional journey, another awaited in her personal sphere. What kind of future awaited her if she continued down this precarious intersection of identity and love? It was time to confront Henry again, and perhaps this time the stakes would be even higher. Emily felt the hum of adrenaline coursing through her veins as she exited the meeting room. each step resonating with the weight of her decisions. The applause still echoed in her ears, a testament to her emergence from the shadows of self-doubt. Yet beneath that initial rush of triumph lay a nagging sense of uncertainty, one that was beckoning her back to a confrontation she desperately needed to face. On her way home, the city buzzed around her. She noticed the vibrant colors of the setting sun splashed across the sky, reflecting the complexity of her emotions. Yet the beauty felt muted, while visions of Henry filled her mind. His laughter, his warmth, but also the strain of their recent discussions, the fractures that had begun to widen. It was then that she realized this moment did not just signal professional growth. It was a forging ground for personal evolution. Accepting change at work meant facing the equally challenging transformation at home. They needed to redefine their relationship or risk losing what was left. Arriving at her apartment, she stood for a moment by the door, hesitant. This conversation would require the same boldness she had exhibited before her colleagues. Would she still possess that fire when faced with the man she loved? She slipped inside, the familiar scent of lavender from her candles grounding her in this space that felt overly comforting yet stifling. The stack of unopened bills on the counter screamed for attention, but Emily brushed past them. There were more pressing concerns. She had to confront not just Henry, but also the boundaries of her own desires, what she was willing to risk for the sake of authenticity. The soft sound of her phone vibrating on the kitchen table pulled her from her thoughts. It was a message from Henry, merely asking if she was back home. The mundane nature of it struck her as both comforting and unsettling. How could something so simple feel laden with so much possibility and risk? "Just getting settled," she replied, the words feeling inadequate. She wanted to convey the magnitude of her feelings and intentions, but a casual exchange would not suffice. Emily took a deep breath and began preparing herself mentally. It was time to shed the remnants of her past hesitations. When she heard Henry's footsteps echo through the corridor moments later, anticipation clenched in her stomach like a vice. As he entered, she caught his eyes. There was concern there, mixed with a flicker of hope that he could not fully hide. His handsome features wore the marks of long hours at work, but it was the tightness of his jaw that made her realize the toll this uncertainty had taken on them both. "Hi," he greeted, his voice low and tentative. "How did it go?" "It went well," she replied, surprising herself with her confidence. "Actually, it went better than I expected. But that's not why I want to talk." He perked up, curiosity piqued. "What's on your mind?" "This isn't easy for me, Henry," she started, pacing slightly. "But I realized today that earnest ambition leads to bigger questions than just career paths. If I'm going to embrace change in my professional life, I need to extend that into my personal life. And to be honest, I think we need to redefine our relationship." The air shifted as she spoke, tension crackling between them. Henry's brow furrowed. "What do you mean, redefine? Are you saying you want something different?" "Yes," she said, the word a blade cutting through her fears. "I want to talk about expectations, the ones we have for ourselves and each other. Maybe we've been holding on to a mold that doesn't fit anymore. I've changed, Henry, and we can either grow together or grow apart." For a moment, silence enveloped them, heavy and thick. Emily's heart raced while she gauged his response, every second stretching out like an eternity. She could see the gears in his head turning, the collision of his own revelations and hopes wrestling against his doubts. "Are you saying you want a break?" he asked, disbelief creeping into his tone. "No, I want clarity," she corrected, her voice steady. I want to pursue my dreams fully, and I need to know if you're with me on this journey, not just as a partner, but as an equal on this path of discovery." The weight of her words hung in the air, and she could almost hear their implications reverberate. The risks, the unasked questions. Would their relationship stand the test of their ambitions? Was she prepared for any answer he might provide? As Emily awaited his response, her heart pounded in wild anticipation. The conversation held the promise of liberation or the threat of uncertainty. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, but the open question remained. Was Henry ready too? Henry's silence stretched on, thick enough to choke on. His gaze wavered, darting around the apartment as if searching for clarity among the familiar decor. Emily felt her own breath tighten in her chest, the words she had summoned now heavy and almost unwieldy. Was this really what she wanted to confront? "I've been thinking," he began cautiously. "Maybe we have been caught up in expectations, maybe mine more than yours. You've changed, and I see it. You're more driven. I admire that." His compliment flared warmth within her, a flicker of hope dancing to life, but his expression remained unreadable. "But isn't that what we've wanted, to support each other's dreams?" "Yes," she responded, emboldened by the spark he had ignited. "But I think we've lost sight of what that truly means. It's not just about support. It's about truly understanding each other's paths." "So what do you propose?" he asked, a tone of wariness creeping into his voice. Emily stared at the polished surface of the kitchen counter, her thoughts racing. She realized she had reached a pivotal moment where she could either allow fear to dictate their conversation or drive it forward with intention. Maybe we need to redefine our own roles in this relationship. What does it mean to be partners in both love and ambition? Henry shifted, leaning against the doorframe, considering her words. "You mean like taking a step back to figure out what we want?" "I'm suggesting an exploration," she urged, feeling a rush of confidence as she navigated through their shared uncertainties. "Let's determine what it is that holds us back from moving forward together. I can't keep pretending I have everything figured out. I want a partnership based on authenticity, where we can both grow." "Are you saying you want more space?" he asked, his voice laced with confusion. "Not space, but freedom to be ourselves fully," Emily clarified, finally finding the balance in her voice. "We should create a space for growth, not just conversation. We should be able to evolve separately as well as together." Henry's expression softened, the rigidness in his posture relaxed. It was a small victory, but significant nonetheless. "I want that too, but how do we know it'll work?" "By committing to figure it out together," she said, her heart pounding with every word. "We can be a team without losing ourselves to each other's expectations. I believe we're both capable of that. But it means being honest in ways we might not have tried yet." A tentative smile broke across Henry's face, a shift from dread to cautious optimism. "Okay, I see your point, but what does that look like day to day?" "That's what we need to explore, but I'd like us to take a weekend trip. Just the two of us, away from everything, no distractions," she proposed, brimming with newfound resolve. "We can talk, learn about what we want, share without the weight of everyday life lingering over us. It'll be real." "I'm in," he said quietly, yet the sincerity in his voice resonated with a finality that fortified Emily's resolve. For the first time, they were stepping towards something rather than away from each other. As they began planning their weekend getaway, Emily felt a shift within her. She was no longer merely a woman trying to mold her life to fit another's desires. She was evolving into someone who sought balance, embracing the unknown with acceptance and courage. But beneath her burgeoning confidence, a deeper part of her whispered questions. Was this weekend enough to unravel and redefine their expectations? As she pursued her aspirations, would Henry's journey parallel hers, or would it diverge into uncharted territory? That night, as she lay in bed, the city thrumming below, Emily realized they were standing at a threshold. The uncertainty of the weekend loomed like a shadow, but within it was a glimmer of hope, and perhaps something transformative waited just beyond the unknown. Emily drifted to sleep with a resolve that felt hard-won, yet fragile. The true test of their relationship was yet to come, and the horizon was filled with questions she had yet to articulate. What challenges awaited her as they opened this dialogue? And would they lead to the fulfillment she craved, or would they expose deeper fractures in their bond? The morning sun spilled over the horizon, painting the room in a warm golden glow. Emily awoke with a sense of determination coursing through her veins, feeling the weight of the weekend ahead settle over her like a comforting blanket. She felt as if the narrative of her life was unfurling, page by page, and she was finally ready to take a more active role in writing it. As she prepared for the day, she replayed the conversation with Henry in her mind. Each word carried significance, a map directing her towards self-discovery and mutual growth. While she brushed her hair, she considered how the trip might affect not only their relationship, but her own understanding of what she wanted from life. Becoming a partner instead of a pleaser, this perspective shift felt monumental. She arrived at work, her usual routine revolving around patient calls and paperwork. Yet today, the energy in her office felt different. Instead of only navigating her tasks, she began to filter every interaction through her new lens of authenticity. During a meeting with her colleagues, a discussion about a new patient care initiative sparked an unexpected surge of ideas within her. She realized that the ambition she'd lingered had applied to her personal life could translate into her professional pursuits as well. "Let's make this initiative more patient-focused," Emily suggested, her voice steady and clear. "We need to cultivate an environment where our patients feel truly heard and involved in their care decisions." Some eyebrows rose, but instead of recoiling from the uncertainty, she embraced it. They needed a fresh approach, and the genesis of that approach could start from her. The resistance she sensed in the room was palpable, but she leaned into it, prepared to defend her vision when an older colleague scoffed. "That's idealistic, Emily. Not every idea can be executed." "Maybe not every idea, but these patients deserve our best effort." Her heartbeat quickened, fueled by conviction, and she met him squarely with her gaze. "If we can't prioritize patient engagement now, when can we?" To her surprise, a dialogue began to unfold. Others joined in, sharing their thoughts and building upon her perspective, propelling the meeting in a direction she had only dreamed could happen. The seed for transformation was planted, and Emily felt invigorated. She was learning to stand firm on her principles, to demand space for her growth in both professional and personal avenues. Yet, as she left work that evening, a whisper of doubt crept in. Had she pushed too hard? Was she risking alienating herself from her colleagues in pursuit of change? The nagging uncertainty tethered her, but she quickly reminded herself of the clarity she found in her evening with Henry. They had agreed on radical honesty, after all. The weekend neared, bringing with it both excitement and a tinge of apprehension. Emily began to compile a mental checklist, not only for the getaway, but for the deeper conversations awaiting them. She pictured themselves in a cozy cabin, surrounded by nature, the air filled with the scent of pine and earth, spaces where proclamation and vulnerability could coexist freely. Returning home that night, she allowed herself to reflect on her evolving identity. She was fully embracing the possibilities of her days, no longer fearing personal ambition or projecting anxiety over her own desires. The changes she had set in motion within her workplace were emblematic of a larger transformation. She felt like a pioneer in her own life, a beacon of authenticity guiding her journey. And yet, as she sat curled up on the couch with her notebook, sifting through thoughts, a humble recognition arose. Could these professional advancements coexist with her personal growth? Would Henry still resonate with this blossoming woman on the precipice of change? The echoes of their weekend adventure loomed, promising revelations, while the reality of her developing self left a delicious tension swirling in her chest. What awaited them beyond the cabin walls? As Emily penned down her thoughts, she couldn't shake the feeling that this weekend would require more from her than simply confronting Henry. It would demand deeper exploration of her evolving self, something she had barely begun to grasp. The real question was, could they both flourish in the spaces they were carving out, or was their desire for growth unraveling the very threads that bound them together? Emily found herself on the edge of bold reflections, teetering between hope and apprehension, wondering how this adventure might illuminate a path that was truly theirs. Emily's thoughts swirled like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind as she navigated the hours leading up to the weekend. The cabin beckoned, promising both solace and challenge, and she could almost visualize the warmth of the fireplace juxtaposed with the burning questions in her mind. With each tick of the clock, she felt the weight of expectation, both her own and that of Henry's, pressing against her chest. When Saturday finally dawned, she was almost vibrating with a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. She had packed her bags thoughtfully, each item symbolizing her intent to step into this new version of herself, with purpose, confidence, and authenticity. Yet, beneath the excitement, the gnawing doubt festered once more. Would the woman she was becoming be enough for the partner she craved? The slow drive into the mountains was picturesque, with scenery changing from cityscape to sprawling fields and finally to forest-clad hills. But even the towering pines failed to distract her from the storm brewing within. What if Henry didn't recognize the changes she had embraced? What if this blossoming self was intimidating rather than inspiring? As they arrived at the cabin, the air thick with the scent of pine and fresh earth, Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. She observed Henry, his face lighting up at the sight of their weekend destination, and a small part of her believed that everything would fall into place as long as they were both in this picturesque space. But doubt clung to her like a shadow, whispering fears that perhaps their shared visions had grown apart. Once inside, they unpacked in silence, a comfortable rhythm where words weren't necessary. Every now and then she caught Henry's eyes lingering on her, as though he sensed the shift she was undergoing. It was a small comfort, yet the questions still loomed large. The perspectives they had cultivated individually seemed to drift apart like clouds in a summer sky. As the afternoon wore on, they settled onto the porch with steaming mugs cradled in their hands. The gentle sounds of the forest surrounded them, providing a calming backdrop as Emily decided to break the silence. "You know," she began, choosing her words with care, "I've been thinking a lot about growth and what it means for both of us." Henry looked intrigued, his gaze steady on hers. "Yeah? What about it?" Could she admit her fears while still asserting her commitment to progress? "I feel like I've stepped into a new version of myself at work. I want to extend that into every part of my life, including our relationship." Her voice trembled with the sincerity of her realization. "But it scares me. I don't want to lose what we have." He took a moment, processing her words before responding, "I appreciate you saying that. I want us both to grow, not just into better versions of ourselves, but together. What does that look like for you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. It unnerved her. She had imagined an easy solution, yet something deeper churned beneath this seemingly simple dialogue. Would her definition of growth resonate with him? The fear of voicing her full truth, a desire for equal partnership and shared ambition held her back momentarily. But the imprint of their conversation about radical honesty loomed large, urging her to press forward. Maybe it means reevaluating how we relate to one another, she finally blurted. I want us to encourage each other's ambitions, not just coexist in them. Are you open to that? The directness of her query sparked a flicker in his expression, potential conflict reflected in his eyes. What you're asking is significant. It will require vulnerability from both of us. Are you ready for that? Emily's heart raced. This was the moment she had both anticipated and dreaded. Standing at the crossroads of vulnerability and potential conflict, much like she had in the office. She exhaled, steeling herself. I am ready, but it's not going to be easy. Now, faced with the possibility of confronting the depth of their relationship, Emily wondered how much Henry was willing to change and grow in tandem with her. The future glimmered with all its uncertainties, pressing against the boundaries of their shared experiences. Could they rewrite their narrative together, or was this the beginning of a divergence that could reshape their bond irrevocably? As the forest whispered around them, Emily's stomach flipped, both anticipating connection and fearing the unraveling that could follow. The moment felt charged, a thrill of potential crackling in the air, beckoning them to cross the threshold into a more profound understanding or risk the fragility of what they had built. Emily sat on the porch, the murmur of the forest intertwining with the rhythm of her thoughts. The weight of Henry's words echoed in her mind. His willingness to explore the depth of their relationship felt like a fragile opportunity, one that could lead them closer or tear them apart. The air before her felt electric, and as she held her steaming mug, she felt the heat slip through her fingers, a reminder of how precariously they balanced between comfort and tension. What are you thinking? Henry's voice cut through the quiet, a gentle prod against the backdrop of her silence. Taking a breath, Emily met his gaze, searching for the right approach. I'm thinking about how we each define growth individually and as a couple. She paused, weighing her next words like morsels of newfound wisdom. At work, I've learned that growth isn't just about personal achievement. It's about collaboration, about being transparent with each other. I want to bring that same energy into our relationship. Henry's brow furrowed slightly, indicating both intrigue and concern. And if our definitions conflict, how do we address that? The question made her pulse quicken. Conflict was inevitable, yet she had never fully embraced the thought of navigating it with grace. I think we need to confront those differences head-on, not shy away from them, she replied, words flowing from a newfound reservoir of confidence. It might mean difficult conversations, but we can't transform if we're afraid to challenge each other's perspectives. A flicker of admiration crossed Henry's face. I like that, but can we commit to radical transparency? No hiding, no glossing over our feelings? His insistence struck her as both daunting and liberating. Emily felt her resolve strengthen. That's exactly what I want. No more playing safe. The clarity of her vision solidified, each word carefully chosen yet infused with urgency. As they directionlessly sipped their coffee, a silence enveloped them, a space where both fear and possibility danced. Emily sensed the delicate shift in their shared energy. They were on the precipice of transformation, but also teetering on the brink of conflict. Could this vulnerability pave the way for a richer partnership? Let's start with our dreams, she proposed, her voice slightly tremulous. What do we truly want as individuals and as a couple? Are we on the same page, or is there something lurking beneath the surface? Henry's expression shifted, betraying a storm of thoughts. That's a bit overwhelming. I understand, she interjected, anxious for him to connect. But it's necessary. I can't carry the fear of losing what we have while wanting more for us both. It's an imbalance that could create resentment. A faint smile graced his lips, albeit slightly strained. Okay, how about you start? I'm interested to hear what your dream looks like, both personally and within us. With a sudden flush of warmth creeping up her neck, Emily began to unravel her aspirations. She spoke about her ambitions, the projects igniting her passion, the calling to use her skills not just for success, but for fulfillment. But I want you to be a part of that journey. I want us to build a life that reflects both our values. Henry's eyes simmered with curiosity, though a hint of skepticism lingered. And if our dreams diverge, what then? The question landed heavy, echoing in Emily's mind. Then we face it together, and if it means altering our paths, we do it, without resentment. A decision lurked in the corners of her thoughts. It boiled down to trusting herself and knowing she would not settle for anything less than collective growth. Yet even as she spoke with conviction, doubt began seeping in, entwining with her resolve. Was she truly ready for the possibility of heartbreaking revelations? As the afternoon sun lowered, casting long shadows across the porch, Emily felt a mixture of hope and dread simmering inside her. They had stepped into vulnerable territory, and she braced for the unknown shifts this honesty might necessitate. The landscape of their future was painted with uncertainty. Waiting with bated breath. With newfound determination flickering in her chest, Emily leaned in, ready to navigate the tension that swirled between them. "Let's lay it all out," she suggested, heart racing. "What's stopping us from achieving those dreams together? What unspoken fears do we each carry?" Henry hesitated, the weight of her inquiry palpable in the charged air. Emily sensed the pivotal moment had come. The potential for breakthrough fruition lay within their hands. But as he opened his mouth to respond, Emily realized she was standing at the edge of their relationship, a crossroads that could either lead to a deeper connection or fracture their bond irrevocably. The question lingered in the air, heavy with uncharted possibilities. What was Henry's truth, and how would it shape what lay ahead? As the evening deepened around them, Emily braced herself for the forthcoming confession, its potential to reshape their connection palpable. She had peeled back the layers of her aspirations, baring her soul, yet she was eager to dig deeper. The shifting shadows of the forest echoed the tempest swirling in their hearts. "Every day I wonder if I'm losing you, or if I'm the one distancing myself," Henry began, his voice low, almost hesitant. "I felt the tension, the expectation, or maybe it's pressure, to evolve into something we've both imagined. But what if I can't meet that vision? What if what I want is simpler, more traditional?" The admission hung heavily between them. Emily felt a tightening in her chest, but she recognized it as the beginning of their much-needed reckoning. "Henry, it's okay to feel that way. What's important is how we move forward together," she responded, her tone steady despite the whirlwind inside. "What does that simplicity look like for you?" Henry leaned back, contemplating. "I love the idea of building a future, but I've always envisioned it with stability as the foundation. The fast-paced life you're chasing feels like a departure from that, a departure from us, and it scares me." Emily nodded, digesting the complexities that revealed a deeper vulnerability. "There's strength in that foundation, but can you see that growth doesn't mean abandoning it? I need you to understand that I don't want to force my ambitions onto you. I just want to embark on my own journey while still sharing ours." Their gazes locked, each searching for the other's resolve. She could see the fight in his eyes, not just for her, but for their relationship and the roots he had planted. "Am I asking too much of you?" he questioned, the raw honesty ricocheting off the walls of self-doubt. "No, it's not about demanding. It's about learning to navigate who we are becoming," she replied firmly, feeling a new layer of her confidence unfurl. "Perhaps we're both learning to stand firm in our convictions at the same time." Henry took a deep breath, visibly wrestling with disbelief. What if that leads us to a crossroads we can't reconcile? My vision has been so clear until now. It's hard for me to imagine a new path. The fear of uncertainty shadowed his words, but Emily sensed the budding willingness within him to explore, to confront. Then let's redefine that path together. What if we take the next step forward, not just in our dreams, but also on how we perceive the us we're trying to build? A glimmer of understanding crossed Henry's face, and the weight in the air shifted. You're saying that maybe our partnership could expand to encompass both of our needs, even if they diverge? Exactly! The energy coursing through Emily felt liberating. What if we start prioritizing what makes us both flourish while doing that together? That means we need to be open to each other's dreams, whatever they may look like. It's about us both taking responsibility for our individual pursuits. The resolve behind her words sparked something in him. Slowly, like dawn breaking after a long night, his expression softened. I want that. I just want to ensure we're still moving forward together. Your journey is inspiring, and I'm willing to find out how we can align those aspirations. That revelation mainstreamed through the tension, warming the space between them. Emily felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her like a wave of releasing energy. They were peeling back layers of uncertainty and discovering vitality in shared understanding. As they continued to speak, Emily initiated dialogue around specific steps they could take, aiming for tangible actions instead of hypothetical discussions. Let's create weekly check-ins, not just casually, but with intention, sharing our thoughts on our growth and anything that arises. We can assess where we both stand. Henry's nod signaled his agreement, the willingness to engage solidifying in the space they created. I like that, a safe space where we can express how it's going and where we're headed individually. A sudden calm enveloped them, gently pushing away the lingering doubts that had hovered like storm clouds. This felt right. There was resolution in the commitment they had made to each other and to themselves. As twilight melded into night, Emily allowed herself to relish the moment. This was no longer just a conversation, but the foundation of newfound respect and understanding. They weren't just lovers struggling against the current of expectations. They were partners ready to explore and redefine their roles and aspirations. Over the course of that weekend, they shared stories of their past, the influences that shaped their dreams, fears, and visions for the future. Each revelation served as a reminder of the depth they had both buried in the chaos of their lives. Through long walks and quiet moments at the cabin, Emily and Henry's bond deepened. They began mapping their dreams onto a shared horizon, each one supporting the other while chasing the clarity they had both craved. As they packed up, ready to return to the city and their everyday lives, Emily felt transformed. She knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, miscommunications, and growth lessons, but the confident harmony they had established was an empowering foundation to build upon. "Thank you for being willing to break down the walls between us," she shared softly, meeting his gaze, knowing the bravery it took for both of them. "I believe we can accomplish this together." Henry took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "I do too, Emily. This feels like a new beginning for both of us. We'll figure it out as we go." Emily beamed with renewed hope. They had embarked on a journey of individual and collective growth, one destined to flourish beyond the confines of their previous expectations. It was more than just a commitment to ambitions. It was a celebration of the complexities that made them who they were, and the promise of a future built together. In the warmth of that shared journey, Emily reveled in the truth. Both she and Henry had conquered their fears, transforming their love story into one of strength and resilience. They were moving forward, not only as individuals, but as a unified force willing to navigate whatever life threw their way. As they drove away, a sense of completion settled in. The road ahead was still winding, but she embraced the uncertainty, knowing she was ready to face it all, together with Henry, wholly and unapologetically. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Show that you're a true fan of personal overcoming stories.